Hello, everybody, and welcome to Week 7. It's time for our weekly DraftKings dumpster dive. If you don't know how this works, basically what I'm doing here is I'm trying to scrape the bottom of the barrel and find some cheap and undervalued players that you can get in your lineups to help you save a little bit of cap space and maybe get some more studs in there. Obviously, these guys are a little bit riskier, but I think based on a few factors, and I'll get to those factors, I think they're primed for some big performances. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. All right, let's see. See who we've got first up. Oh, we got a quarterback, Brian Hoyer. Brian Hoyer's 5,600 this week, and he's going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars and their bad defense. They're actually worst against the pass, and they're allowing the third most passing yards, 294 yards a game. On top of that, Hoyer's actually been pretty decent. He's averaging 244.8 yards per game, and he's completing about 60% of his passes. Now, he's been really efficient, and that probably is going to continue to get even better with Jordan Cameron now healthy and back in action. So I look for them to have another big week this week, and against the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think that for $5,600, especially with Cameron, who also doesn't command too high of a price tag, you're going to see Hoyer in a lot of lineups and potentially could see him as part of a few winning stacks as well. All right. Next up, we got, looks like a wide receiver. It's Devontae Adams, first of two Packers that I've got on the week on the board for you this week. 3,900 going up against the Carolina Panthers. Now the Panthers haven't looked great on defense since the loss of Greg Hardy. They really haven't been able to stop the run, and they haven't been able to get enough pressure to really generate a pass rush and stop a passing game too well. They're 24th. They're giving up the 24th most points to opposing wide receivers right now. Now, Adams is the least expensive, but just last week, he was the second most highly targeted with 8 targets to Jordy Nelson's 16 on the team. So he's earned Aaron Rodgers' trust, and he did well with that trust, catching 6 of those 8 targets for 77 yards. I look for him to actually improve on those numbers and continue to increase his role because he's secured that third wide receiver slot over Jarrett Boykin. A lot of looks are going to come his way, and with the other two solid wide receivers that you've got ahead of him, I think that you're going to continue to see him get favorable coverage options, and Aaron Rodgers is not one to shy away from good coverage if he can get the ball to him. So I definitely think that he's a guy, if you can afford to get one of those Packers in your lineup, I think he's the guy to go with. Even though Nelson is the league's leading receiver, he's also the most expensive receiver this week, so Adams could save you some money and also get some decent production. All right, we got a running back, and our second Packer here for you. This is Eddie Lacy. Now, many of you, like myself, have probably been burned by Eddie Lacy at one point in time this week or another. There's only really been 1 week this year so far that he's put up good numbers, and that was against the Minnesota Vikings. Now, he's dropped considerably. He's 6,300 last week to 4,700 this week, so that represents a $1,600 drop. That's a huge, huge figure for $4,700 for a starting running back against a horrible Carolina Panthers defense, which we just talked about. They're actually allowing the 5th most rushing yards right now at 140.2 yards per game. Now, while James Starks does figure to see a little bit more prominent role in the offense moving forward, I think that you're still going to see Lacy, the bell cow for that offense. And given that he's still averaging about 3.8 yards per carry, there's reason to believe that given the right matchup, that he could definitely produce, and this matchup could be the one to do it. Again, at 4,700, an over-under of 50, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for him to find the end zone, and I think that you should definitely try and find a way to get him in at least 1 or 2 of your lineups this week. All right. Here's another guy that's kind of fallen from grace at tight end this week. We've got Larry Donnell. He's down to $3,500, and he's going up against Dallas. Now, Dallas is pretty bad against opposing tight ends, but they've actually been pretty stout against just opposing offenses in general. I think it's been a surprising defensive turnaround overall. The one big thing here to keep in mind is that Victor Cruz went down to a season-ending knee injury last week. Now, we don't really truly know how that's going to affect the offense entirely and how they're going to game plan moving forward, but I think what we'll see happen is opposing defenses will plan on Ruben Randle as the biggest threat, and since Ruben Randle was such an impactful player in the red zone, some of those red zone looks could go Larry Donnell's way. So that is enough of a reason. When we saw him catch 3 touchdowns against the Redskins a few weeks ago, so there's not any, we know he can do it, and I think that given the potential for more opportunities at $3,500, he's a little bit of a gamble. But I think that you see the Giants bounce back from that embarrassing loss last week, and I think Donnell's a big part of that win, a big part of that bounce back this week. Not necessarily a win, but at least a bounce back. All right, and our last spot, we've got a defense. Now, this defense, this is an obvious one. We thought that the Oakland was an obvious one before, but this one is pretty much a foolproof one. It's Browns against Jacksonville. Jacksonville is giving up the most points to opposing defenses. That's not changing anytime soon. The run game is horrible. Toby Gerhart's injured, and the other two rushers, Storm Johnson, rookie. Denard Robinson, inexperienced. So a lot of question marks there in the run game. And then you've also got the rookie Blake Bortles at quarterback. You've had some injuries at wide receiver. It looks like some of those are behind them. So the passing game may start to get on track a little bit more. But again, they're giving up the most points, and it's not really close. And then also, on the other hand, last week, the Browns were able to hold Big Ben to just 228 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Had a pretty good outing. Held the team as a whole to just 10 points overall and was able to put up 8 points in DraftKings contests. So for $3,000, I think they're just about the play of the week, especially at that price point against the Jacksonville offense, who, again, is giving up the most points to opposing defenses. So that's it for us for this week's DraftKings Dumpster Dive. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And as always, your fantasy is my reality.